The twin suns of Narelle burned hot and bright in the sky. Their light was beautiful, but it brought only danger to the small, fragile world below. The Valari, a gentle alien race, had lived on this planet for thousands of years. Their cities were made of delicate towers that shined in sunlight like glass, and their people had soft blue skin and large, curious eyes. They had always believed that other civilizations in the galaxy would help if they needed it. But now the Valari were learning the truth. Elaran Voss, the leader of the Valari, stood on a high balcony, looking down at the city below. The air shimmered from heat, and the distant mountains seemed to flicker under the intensity of the suns. Elaran's hands rested on the railing, trembling slightly. His heart was heavy. His people were dying. Crops withered under the relentless sun. Rivers ran low, and storms of burning dust swept through the cities. Every day the Valari grew weaker. They had sent messages to the Galactic Council, asking for help, but all they received were empty words and polite refusals. "This can't go on much longer," Elaran said softly to himself. He turned and walked to the council chamber, where his advisors were waiting. The room was quiet, filled with a tension that seemed to make the walls shake. "Our messages have not worked," said Valira, a young advisor with bright silver eyes. "The council ignores us. They say our planet is unstable and too risky to save. They have left us to die." Elaran nodded. He had heard these words many times, but hearing them now still made him ache. "We cannot wait any longer," he said. "We must send a signal ourselves. Something they cannot ignore. Something that will reach anyone who can help. If the council will not act, maybe someone else will." The Valari worked quickly. They used all their energy to construct a single massive distress signal. It was different from their usual diplomatic messages. It was raw and urgent. It carried the sound of desperation and hope at the same time. They sent it out into deep space, broadcasting their need to any civilization that might hear. Days passed. The Valari waited, watching the skies, hoping for a response. Every day brought more fear. They did not know if anyone would come. Their supplies were running low, and the heat from the twin suns burned harder each day. Children and the elderly suffered first, their soft bodies not built to handle the relentless sun. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. On the edge of Narelle's sensors, a small blip appeared. At first, the scientists thought it was a mistake. Their instruments were old and sometimes broke under the heat. But the blip grew larger, moving steadily toward Narelle. Soon it was clear that something real was coming, something alive. Elaran and his council watched with a mixture of fear and hope. The approaching ships were unlike anything they had seen before. They were not shiny or perfect like the vessels of the Galactic Council. They were rough, scarred, and patched in places, but they moved with a strength and determination that was impossible to ignore. On board the lead ship, Captain Ethan Brooks stared at the view screen. His eyes were sharp and calm, taking in the stars as they streaked past. His crew worked quietly around him, checking systems, monitoring the approaching planet. He had seen many strange worlds in his life, but something about this signal had drawn him in. It was not just a call for help. It was a plea, a cry that reached deep into him. "Are you sure it's safe to respond, Captain?" asked Laura Mitchell, his second-in-command. She was cautious, always thinking ahead, but she trusted Ethan's judgment. Ethan did not answer immediately. He studied the planet below, seeing the two suns blazing over a small, fragile world. He saw the faint glow of cities and the thin plumes of smoke rising from burning fields. Something inside him stirred. "No one else is coming," he said finally. "If we don't go, they will die. I won't let that happen." The ship altered its course, heading straight for Narelle. As it moved through space, more ships appeared behind it. Smaller vessels, fast and nimble, each one crewed by humans. Their markings were worn, their paint scratched, but they carried a sense of quiet power. The Valari had always been taught to fear humans. In the past, they had heard stories of Earth's harsh people, the Deathworlders, who came from a planet where life was hard, cruel, and dangerous. The galaxy had laughed at Earth, calling its people savage and chaotic. But now those same humans were coming to save them. When the first human ship entered the upper atmosphere, the Valari gasped. It was massive and intimidating, but it did not move like a weapon. It moved with purpose, calm and steady. Ethan Brooks and his crew guided it safely to the surface, landing in a wide open field near the Valari city. Dust rose in clouds around the landing site, and the heat from the engines made the air shimmer. Elaran Voss met the humans at the edge of the landing site. He did not know what to expect. He had prepared speeches, welcoming words, and carefully thought-out gestures. But when he saw the humans step forward, unarmed and confident, all his plans disappeared. Their presence was strange and powerful, and he felt both fear and hope at the same time. "Greetings," said Ethan Brooks in the Valari tongue, carefully learned from intercepted transmissions. His voice was steady but kind. "We received your call. We are here to help." Ellerin blinked. He had not expected these words. No one ever came to help the Valari. Most civilizations ignored them or used their planet as a warning. He looked at the humans' faces, seeing determination, courage, and a strange warmth that the Valari had never known. You have come for us?" he asked, almost afraid to believe it. "Yes," said Laura Mitchell. "We do not abandon those who ask for help," the Valari gasped. It seemed too simple, too pure. But as the humans walked through the heat of the twin suns without faltering, Ellerin realized it was true. They had come to save them, not for power, not for gain, but because they could not ignore a plea for life. The humans wasted no time. Engineers like Grace Carter and Miles Hunter began examining the city's broken power systems, moving quickly to stabilize them. Their methods seemed strange to the Valari, rough and unpolished, but they worked. Machines that had failed for months began to hum again under the humans' touch. Children peeked out from behind the towers, watching the humans work. They had never seen anyone so strong and fearless. They whispered to each other, calling the humans the brave ones from the stars. The elders, who had lost hope long ago, began to feel a strange warmth in their hearts. Meanwhile, Ellerin led his people to clear the streets and help the humans. The Valari were careful, nervous, but the humans encouraged them. "You can do this," Ethan said as he supervised repairs. "We are here together." Night fell over Narelle, and the two suns set behind distant mountains, painting the sky with orange and violet. The Valari had expected darkness to bring fear, but instead it brought hope. For the first time in many cycles, they felt that maybe, just maybe, they would survive. Above them, in the quiet of space, the Galactic Council observed the humans with confusion and fear. These were the people they had always dismissed, the Deathworlders they had mocked. But now those same humans were saving a civilization the Council had abandoned. And in doing so, they were showing the galaxy something no one expected, that courage and determination could come from the most unlikely places. Ellerin Voss stood in the cool night, watching the humans move among his people. He realized that hope was not just a word. It was alive, in the actions of these strangers from a distant planet. The Valari had called into the void expecting silence. Instead, they had found something far greater. The first night passed quietly. Humans slept in their ships, tired from travel and work, while the Valari watched, unable to sleep from excitement and worry. When the twin suns rose again, they would need to begin the long work of repair and defense. But now they were not alone. They had allies. They had the Deathworlders, and the galaxy had no choice but to notice. The day began with a quiet tension over Narelle. The Valari watched the humans move through their cities with steady confidence. Ethan Brooks and Laura Mitchell led their team, giving instructions to Valari engineers and volunteers. The humans worked quickly, fixing broken energy systems, repairing damaged buildings, and securing water supplies. Every action seemed dangerous yet effortless. Grace Carter climbed onto the top of a tall energy tower, examining the broken circuits that had left half the city without power. Her hands moved with skill and speed, adjusting wires and panels, ignoring the heat and wind that swept across the tower. Below, Miles Hunter handed her tools, careful to follow her instructions. "Are you sure this will hold?" he asked. Grace smiled without looking down. "It has to. If it fails, half the city goes dark again. Trust me, it will work." The Valari had never seen anyone work like this. Most aliens in the galaxy treated machines with extreme caution, worrying about safety and rules. Humans ignored the rules but made the machines stronger. Valari children watched from a distance, their small blue faces filled with awe. One whispered to another, "They are not afraid. How can they not be afraid?" Ellerin Voss moved through the streets, speaking with elders and workers. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. Humans were saving his people, not because of politics or trade, but simply because they wanted to help. He tried to explain this to the Valari Council. "They do not think of themselves first," he said. "They do not care about danger or pain. They only see what must be done and they do it." Valera, his young advisor, shook her head. "It is impossible. Everyone in the galaxy seeks something. Humans cannot act without reason. Alarin smiled faintly. Perhaps their reason is simple. Perhaps their reason is compassion. In the sky above, the twin suns blazed with unrelenting heat. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, carrying with them dust and radiation. The Valari's equipment had long been failing in the storms, but the humans moved outside as if nothing could harm them. They tied ropes, braced beams, and guided machinery through dangerous gusts. Meanwhile, back on the outskirts of Narelle, the Galactic Council was in session. Ambassadors from dozens of species argued loudly, each claiming their own view of the humans' actions. Some called it reckless, some called it dangerous, others were afraid. Ambassador Taryn Bell, a slick and careful Valari representative in the council, spoke for the first time. These humans have interfered where no one else dared. They do not obey our rules. They do not listen to the council. Yet they are saving a world we had already decided to ignore. We cannot ignore them anymore, council members muttered angrily. They had expected silence or failure. They had expected the Valari to die quietly, leaving nothing for the galaxy to notice. Instead, humans had arrived and begun changing everything. On Narelle, the humans continued their work. Ethan Brooks gathered Valari volunteers, showing them how to repair simple machinery. At first, the aliens were hesitant. Their hands shook as they touched tools, afraid of making mistakes. Brooks walked among them, guiding and encouraging. "Do not worry about failure," he said. "We learn by trying. Every mistake teaches us how to do better." Laura Mitchell led a group of Valari to reinforce buildings that had weakened from the heat and storms. They carried heavy beams and lifted panels, moving with Brooks' guidance. Their muscles ached, but the humans never seemed tired. They smiled, they joked, and they encouraged the Valari to keep going. By mid-afternoon, several parts of the city had been restored. Water flowed again in the main canals, electricity returned to neighborhoods, and small gardens began to bloom with irrigation. The Valari cheered quietly, unsure if it was happiness or relief they felt. Both perhaps. Then the first warning came. Sensors on the outskirts of the planet detected an approaching fleet. The Valari looked at the readings in panic. Ships with sharp edges and dark metal were closing fast. These were not council ships. These were pirates. The Kareth marauders, known throughout nearby sectors for their violence and greed, had found Narelle that Alarin's heart sank. "They come to take everything," he whispered. "We are not ready." Brooks studied the readings, his face calm but focused. "We will be ready," he said. He turned to Laura Mitchell. "Prepare the defenses. We cannot let them take this world." The humans moved quickly. Grace Carter helped build energy shields using whatever power sources were available. Miles Hunter and Valari volunteers set up communication lines and warning systems. Every person worked, every action mattered. The Valari watched in amazement. They had never faced enemies like this before. And yet the humans moved as though they had fought 1,000 battles already. As the Kareth marauder ships entered the atmosphere, the skies over Narelle darkened with their shadows. Their cannons glowed red as they prepared to fire. The Valari panicked, but Brooks remained calm. "Stand firm," he said. "We will hold the line." The humans coordinated with the Valari to place defensive barriers. Valari workers carried materials while humans supervised, adjusting positions to maximize safety and strength. Brooks gave simple, clear commands that everyone could follow. "Left flank, hold here. Energy shield, raise now. Don't panic. Keep moving." The first shots rang out. Bright beams of red and orange tore through the sky, striking buildings and streets. Dust and smoke filled the air, but the humans moved through it without hesitation. They guided Valari citizens to safe areas, helped the wounded, and returned to their posts as if nothing had changed. Ilaran Voss watched from the city center. He had led his people through crises before, but he had never seen anything like this. Humans faced danger without fear. Their courage inspired the Valari to stand and fight. Mothers and fathers, who had hidden in fear, now carried supplies and helped reinforce shelters. Children handed tools and water to workers. Hope, fragile but strong, began to spread through the city. By evening, the first wave of the Marauders' attack had been held back. The humans and Valari worked together to repair the damage, quickly replacing shields and patching walls. Grace Carter climbed to a tower, her hands moving over circuits and wires as though they were extensions of herself. She spoke to Miles Hunter over a small comm device, directing energy flow to weak spots. The Valari saw her and felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. No Valari could have done this. No Valari had dared. Humans could fight in ways they had never imagined, and yet they were not cruel. They were not seeking to dominate. They were saving, protecting, and teaching. Night came slowly. Fires burned in parts of the city, but most areas had been stabilized. The Valari gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. "Why do they risk themselves for us?" one elder whispered. "They do not gain anything. They could leave at any time." Ellerin shook his head. "That is what makes them different. They do not act for gain. They act for what is right. That is something our galaxy has almost forgotten." Brooks and Mitchell gathered their team in a temporary command post. They reviewed damage reports, supply levels, and defensive positions. "We have stopped the first attack," Brooks said. "But they will return. We need to prepare for more. And we need to teach the Valari how to defend themselves." Mitchell nodded. "They are willing to learn. We just need to show them how." Over the following hours, the humans trained small groups of Valari in basic defense tactics. They showed them how to use simple weapons, how to coordinate in teams, and how to think quickly under pressure. The Valari stumbled, made mistakes, and grew frustrated, but the humans encouraged them at every step. "You are stronger than you think," Brooks said. "Every mistake is a lesson. Remember that." By the end of the second day, the Valari had begun to understand that they could fight. They had seen humans risk everything for them and realized that they too must rise to the challenge. Small victories, restored buildings, repelled attacks, and working energy systems gave them confidence. The humans were no longer strangers. They were allies. High above in space, the Galactic Council continued to argue. Some feared that humans would upset the balance of power. Others worried that helping the Valari would make them a target. No one fully understood the humans' motives, and that uncertainty brought more unease than any weapon. Back on the planet, Iloran Voss looked at the human leaders with quiet respect. These Deathworlders, once feared across the galaxy, had brought life back to a dying world. They had come from the shadows, answering a cry that no one else had heard. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the city, a fragile peace settled. The Valari had hope for the first time in many cycles. They had seen courage, they had learned strength, and they had discovered something more important than survival: trust. And in the distance, the dark shapes of the Kareth marauders lingered, watching, planning, and waiting. The true test had only just begun. The next morning, Nurel's skies were bright with light, but the air was tense. The Valari had not slept well. Some had stayed awake all night, watching humans repair damaged areas and train small groups of volunteers. The twin suns rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the city. The humans moved among the Valari, calm and focused, as though danger were nothing more than another task to complete. Iloran Voss walked through the main plaza, observing the humans at work. Ethan Brooks directed a group of Valari volunteers who were reinforcing energy shields, while Laura Mitchell instructed another group on evacuation routes and emergency measures. Grace Carter climbed a scaffolding tower to adjust power conduits, and Miles Hunter carried supplies to repair a damaged communications array. The Valari watched quietly, amazed. Humans did not seem to tire. They did not panic. They simply acted, and their actions brought hope. "We have to learn from them," Ellerin said to Valera, his young advisor, who walked beside him. "They move through danger with certainty. They teach others without arrogance. They fight without fear. We have never seen this before." Valera shook her head. "It is unsettling. How can beings so simple survive in the galaxy? They are reckless, yet they succeed. It makes no sense." Ellerin smiled faintly. "Perhaps what seems reckless is simply courage. Perhaps they act because they must, not because they think it will be safe. That is something our galaxy has forgotten." Far above Nurel, sensors detected movement. The Kareth marauders were still in orbit, observing the humans and the Valari below. Their leader, Vorik, paced his command ship, angry that his usual threats had not driven the Valari to submission. "These humans are unlike anything we have seen," he growled. "They are not afraid. They fight as if death is meaningless. We will see how long that lasts." Vorik sent orders to his fleet. Smaller ships moved closer, testing defenses and sending messages of intimidation. Beams of red light struck the edges of the Valari cities, scorching walls and shattering glass towers. Panic spread among the Valari, but the humans remained calm. Ethan Brooks gathered his team. "We need to respond quickly," he said. "We cannot let them frighten the people. If we show calm, the Valari will follow our lead. Laura Mitchell nodded. We also need to teach them how to defend themselves. They cannot rely on us forever. Brooks gave clear instructions. Human and Valari volunteers began reinforcing buildings, setting up barricades and deploying small energy shields. Grace Carter worked with Valari engineers to stabilize power systems so that defenses could remain operational during attacks. Miles Hunter led a team to place early warning sensors around the city, giving them advance notice of incoming attacks. By mid-afternoon, the Valari had begun to understand the basics of defense. At first, their hands trembled as they handled tools and simple weapons. They had never been trained for combat, and many had never considered the possibility of violence. But humans moved among them, guiding them patiently, explaining every step. Do not fear failure, Brooks told them. Every mistake is a lesson. Every action matters. The first real attack came just after the second sun reached its highest point. Small marauder ships darted through the sky, firing at city walls and energy shields. Valari citizens screamed and ran for cover, but the humans moved directly into danger. They carried supplies to repair damaged defenses, guided Valari volunteers to safety, and returned fire with small, precise weapons. The Valari watched in awe. These beings from a distant planet faced death as if it were just another obstacle. Mothers and fathers, inspired by the humans' courage, joined the volunteers. Even the children helped, carrying water and tools to those on the front lines. Fear did not disappear entirely, but it became manageable. Courage spread like fire through the city. Ilaran Voss stood beside Brooks on a balcony overlooking the plaza. They are incredible, he said. I have never seen such fearlessness. Our people are learning from them. Perhaps we too can survive, Brooks nodded. You can survive, Ilaran. You just have to trust yourselves and follow the steps we teach. Meanwhile, in the shadows of orbit, the Galactic Council debated fiercely. Ambassadors from dozens of worlds argued over how to respond to the humans' actions. Some demanded immediate intervention, claiming humans were a threat to the galaxy's balance. Others argued that Narel's salvation could not be ignored. No one fully understood why humans acted as they did, and the uncertainty bred fear. Taryn Bell, the Valari representative on the council, spoke quietly to the others. We cannot control them. They answer no rules but their own. They are not seeking gain, power, or influence, yet they act with purpose. This is dangerous in ways we cannot predict. Back on Narel, the humans continued their work. Brooks organized small groups of Valari to conduct drills. They practiced moving under cover, repairing defenses under pressure, and using simple weapons to defend key areas. At first, the Valari stumbled, dropping tools and hesitating in fear. But Brooks remained patient, guiding each one with clear instructions. Laura Mitchell led a team through the narrow streets, teaching the Valari how to coordinate in groups. You are stronger together than alone, she said. If one falls, the others can carry on. Never forget that. The Valari slowly began to trust themselves. The first few drills were chaotic, but by the end of the day they could move as a small unit, placing barriers, repairing damage, and following instructions under pressure. Brooks and Mitchell watched satisfied. They will be ready, Brooks said quietly. As night fell, the Marauders launched a larger attack. Dozens of ships descended on the city, firing lasers and energy bombs. Humans and Valari worked side by side. Grace Carter climbed to the top of a damaged tower, directing energy flow to keep shields active. Miles Hunter moved quickly along the streets, repairing damaged power nodes. Ethan Brooks and Laura Mitchell coordinated defenses, giving precise orders that everyone could follow. Despite the chaos, the humans remained calm. Their courage inspired the Valari to fight alongside them. The Valari were still inexperienced, but they had learned to move together, to follow instructions and to trust their leaders. Slowly, they began to push back against the Marauders' attacks. By the time the first wave ended, the city had suffered damage, but the humans and Valari had held their ground. Fires burned in some areas, but the majority of the city remained intact. The Valari gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. They are not afraid, one elder whispered. How can they move through danger and not falter? Ilaran shook his head. It is not fearlessness. It is determination. They act because they know it is right. That is something our people must learn. The humans did not rest. They continued to repair damage, reinforce defenses, and train the Valari. Ethan Brooks gathered the council for a short briefing. We cannot predict the next attack, he said. The marauders will return, stronger and more coordinated. We must prepare. We must train every Valari who can fight, and we must fortify every building we can. Valera, watching the humans move through the city with tireless energy, began to understand. They are not like any other beings we have met, she said quietly to Ellerin. They do not follow rules. They do not seek power. They simply act. And what they do, it changes everything. Ellerin nodded. Yes, and because of them our people can survive. Because of them we can hope. As the night deepened, humans continued their patrols, checking every street and tower. They spoke quietly to the Valari, offering encouragement and instructions. Even when they were tired, they moved with purpose. The Valari began to mimic them, carrying supplies, repairing damage, and standing guard. Courage spread through the city like a wave. High above, the marauders regrouped. Vorek, frustrated by their failures, prepared for another assault. These humans are not like other prey, he growled. They fight with others. They do not tire. They will die, but only after making us bleed. I will not forget this. Back on the ground, Ilaran Voss stood with Brooks and Mitchell on a high tower. The city stretched below them, scarred but alive. Humans moved among the people, teaching, helping, and protecting. The Valari, once fragile and fearful, now had the beginnings of strength and courage. Brooks looked at Ilaran and said, "The next attacks will be harder, but if we stay together, we can hold them. You have a strong people here. They just needed someone to show them how to believe in themselves." Ellerin nodded, hope rising in his chest. "You have shown them more than skill or strength. You have shown them courage, patience, and trust. That is more valuable than any weapon." As the twin suns set, casting long shadows across Narelle, the city began to feel different. It was still under threat, but fear was no longer the only emotion. There was determination, courage, and hope. The Valari had seen what humans could do, and they began to believe that they too could survive. The battle for Narelle was only beginning, but the first lessons had been learned. The humans were not just strangers from a distant planet. They were teachers, protectors, and allies, and the Valari would follow them into whatever dangers lay ahead. The day began with an uneasy silence. The skies above Narelle were bright, but the tension was heavier than the heat from the twin suns. The Valari had spent days preparing under the guidance of humans, but today, they knew the marauders would return in full force. The warning sensors picked up dozens of enemy ships moving toward the planet, their weapons glowing red and orange as they prepared to strike. Ilaran Voss stood on a high balcony, watching the skies. His heart pounded, but he was no longer paralyzed by fear. Humans had shown his people that courage was stronger than fear. "We must hold our ground," he whispered to Valera, who stood beside him. "This is the day our people will fight for survival." Below, the humans were coordinating defenses. Ethan Brooks moved among the Valari, giving clear, simple instructions. Laura Mitchell organized small squads to monitor streets and protect civilians. Grace Carter climbed the tallest towers to ensure energy shields were fully functional, while Miles Hunter led groups to repair damaged communications and deploy small cannons along key routes. Brooks turned to Ilaran. "We need every able-bodied Valari to help. They have courage, but they are inexperienced. We guide them, we fight with them, and we protect them. Together we can stop this." The marauders entered the atmosphere like a storm. Their ships cut through the skies, firing upon city walls and energy shields. Lasers and missiles streaked across the horizon, setting parts of the city on fire. Valari citizens ran in fear, but the humans moved calmly through the chaos, giving orders and helping people to safety. "Stay close to us," Brooks called to a group of Valari volunteers. "Do not panic. Follow our lead." The Valari followed, learning quickly. Mothers and fathers carried supplies while children helped relay messages. Even elders assisted, placing small shields and guiding people to safety. Humans had taught them to act under pressure, and now those lessons were being tested. Grace Carter adjusted a damaged power node, sweat running down her face from the heat and effort. "We need to hold this line," she shouted to Miles Hunter. "If this fails, half the city goes dark." Miles nodded and carried a spare energy cell to the node. Together they repaired the system, and light returned to a neighborhood that had been in darkness. Valari watched, amazed that humans could move through danger without fear and repair systems so quickly. On the streets, Laura Mitchell led a team of Valari to protect civilians from falling debris and marauder fire. She taught them to work in pairs, covering each other and moving with purpose. Every step matters, she said. Do not waste time. Act quickly but carefully. The first major wave of the Marauders' attack was relentless. Small ships darted through the city, firing on buildings and barricades. Explosions shook the streets and fires spread quickly. Valari volunteers hesitated, but Brooks' calm presence inspired them. He moved beside them, shielding them from falling debris and guiding them toward cover. Slowly, their fear transformed into determination. Ellerin watched from a tower. His city, once fragile and vulnerable, was now filled with brave citizens standing alongside humans. He realized that survival was no longer impossible. Humans had not just repaired systems, they had awakened courage. As the Marauders intensified their attack, Ethan Brooks devised a bold plan. He would lead a small strike team directly against the largest Marauder ship in orbit. If they could disable it, the remaining enemy ships would lose coordination and retreat. Brooks, are you sure? Laura asked, worry in her eyes. This is dangerous. He nodded, calm and resolute. It is dangerous, yes. But if we do nothing, the city will fall. We protect these people or we fail. I choose to act. Grace Carter and Miles Hunter joined him, as did several Valari volunteers who had shown courage during earlier skirmishes. Together, they boarded a small assault craft, sleek and fast, designed to move quickly through enemy fire. The rest of the humans and Valari prepared defenses to hold the city until they returned. The assault craft streaked through the sky, weaving through enemy fire with impossible precision. Lasers missed them by inches, explosions rocking the hull. But Brooks's calm voice guided the team. Keep steady. Trust the ship. Trust each other. They reached the Marauder flagship, its dark hull massive and menacing. Brooks and his team planted explosives at key points, carefully avoiding detection. The Valari volunteers, trembling at first, moved with Brooks' guidance. They had never done anything like this before, but courage had grown in them over these days of preparation. The explosives detonated, tearing a massive hole in the enemy ship. Alarms blared and the Marauder fleet became chaotic. Smaller ships scrambled to protect the flagship, but the humans and Valari below were ready. The city's defenses, reinforced and guided by Brooks and his team, began targeting the remaining enemy ships with energy cannons and shielded weapons. Back in the city, the Valari and humans fought side by side. Mothers, fathers, and children helped wherever they could. Small cannons fired with precision, shields deflected incoming attacks, and energy grids powered up defensive systems. Even in chaos, the humans remained calm, guiding every movement and encouraging every Valari volunteer. Ilaran Voss felt a strange pride. His people, once weak and afraid, were standing and fighting for survival. He realized that humans had not just come to save them, they had taught them to save themselves. Courage spread through the city like fire, infecting everyone who saw it. The Marauders, seeing their flagship destroyed and the city holding strong, began to retreat. Their coordinated attack had failed. Vorek, furious and humiliated, ordered a withdrawal. This is not over, he growled. We will return. As the enemy ships vanished into space, the city was quiet, except for the crackling of small fires and the hum of repaired machinery. Humans and Valari moved quickly to secure buildings, tend to the wounded, and restore order. Grace Carter climbed another tower, checking power lines and making minor repairs. Miles Hunter helped Valari workers fix damaged communication nodes. Brooks and Mitchell moved through the streets, checking on volunteers and guiding them in securing barricades. You all did well, Brooks said. Remember this feeling. Courage grows when you act, even when you are afraid. Today you acted. That is why we survived. Valari citizens began to cheer quietly. They had faced a threat that seemed impossible, yet they had stood their ground. Mothers hugged their children, elders nodded with pride, and even the young ones felt the power of what they had witnessed. Humans had come to save them, yes, but they had also given them strength, hope, and courage. Ilaran Voss met Brooks and Mitchell at the center of the city. You came from the shadows when no one else did, he said, voice thick with emotion. You did not need to risk your lives for us. Yet you did, why? Brooks smiled faintly. Because we know what it feels like to be ignored. We do not turn away when someone asks for help, we act. That is enough reason. Laura Mitchell added, We are not heroes. We are simply beings who understand that life matters. Today your people stood with us. That is what makes the difference. Ellerin nodded, tears in his eyes. Then we will remember this day, Not because of the humans' courage alone, but because we learned courage ourselves. We will not forget it. As night fell over Narelle, the city began to repair itself. Fires were extinguished, barricades reinforced, and wounded citizens tended to. Humans continued to guide the Valari, showing them how to maintain systems and defend against future threats. Even exhausted, they moved among the people with calm purpose. High above, the marauders regrouped, their defeat a bitter lesson. Orcs swore revenge, but for now the humans and Valari had shown what courage and unity could achieve. The battle had been won, but the war for survival was not yet over. Ellerin Voss looked at the human leaders as they moved through the city. "Your people are extraordinary," he said quietly. "But it is not just your strength that saved us. It is your example. You showed our people that fear can be overcome, that hope can exist even in the darkest hour." Brooks nodded. "That is what we hope for. Courage is contagious. We act and others learn to act. That is how survival spreads." The Valari began to understand. They had called into the void expecting silence. Instead, they had found humans, beings who risked everything for life, who moved through danger with purpose, and who taught them to believe in themselves. The city of Narelle, scarred but alive, stood as proof. Humans had come from the shadows and shown what was possible. The Valari would rebuild stronger and braver than before, and when the galaxy watched, they would know that courage was not limited to the strongest or the most advanced. It could come from anyone willing to act. The dawn over Narelle was quiet. The twin suns rose slowly, casting a golden glow over the city. Fires from the battle still smoldered in some areas, but most of the city had survived. The Valari moved cautiously through the streets, inspecting buildings and tending to the wounded. For the first time in many cycles, their faces held not fear, but relief and determination. Ellerin Voss walked through the main plaza, watching his people work. Mothers helped repair homes, fathers rebuilt barricades, and children carried water and supplies to those in need. Even the elders, once trembling with worry, now guided volunteers and offered encouragement. Courage had grown within them, nurtured by the humans who had come from the stars to save their world. Ethan Brooks and Laura Mitchell moved through the city alongside Grace Carter and Miles Hunter, checking on repairs and guiding the Valari. Brooks watched quietly as the citizens worked, pride in his eyes. "They've learned much," he said softly, "but they will learn more in time. Today they faced the impossible and survived. That is the first step." Laura nodded. "They are stronger than they know. We just had to show them how." Ellerin approached them, his expression both tired and grateful. "You came from a distant place, a world that others called dangerous and wild. You risked your lives for us, yet you asked nothing in return. Why?" Brooks smiled faintly. "Because life matters. Simple as that. We act when we can, and hope spreads from our actions. That is enough reason." Ellerin nodded. "Then know this. You have changed our people forever. You have shown us courage, unity, and hope. We will not forget this day." The Valari had begun the long task of rebuilding their city. Human teams helped organize work, teaching the Valari how to repair energy systems, reinforce structures, and maintain defensive shields. Brooks knew that one day the Valari would be able to manage these systems on their own, without human guidance. For now, the work was steady, careful, and full of cooperation. Grace Carter climbed a tower to inspect energy nodes. She called down to Miles Hunter. "These systems are holding well. They've learned quickly. I think they'll manage even if we leave soon." Miles nodded. "Yes. They still have fear, but they also have courage. That balance will keep them alive." In the council chamber, Ellerin addressed the Valari leaders. "We have survived because of strangers who came from the stars. They risked everything to save us. But survival is not just theirs. It is ours too. We must continue what they have begun. We must defend ourselves, maintain our city, and learn to act with courage even when danger is near." Valira, his young advisor, nodded. "Our people will remember. This day is more than survival. It is a lesson in courage and hope." Far above, the Galactic Council observed the outcome of the battle with mixed feelings. Some were angry at humans for acting without permission. Others were uneasy, realizing that these beings from a planet considered dangerous could shape events in ways no one could predict. The humans had not sought power, had not demanded tribute, and had not tried to control anyone. Yet their actions had changed the fate of an entire world. Vorik and the Kareth marauders had retreated, their fleet scattered and damaged. The marauders had underestimated both the humans and the Valari. Vorik swore revenge, but for now he had no choice but to regroup. The humans had shown the galaxy something dangerous. Courage and determination could not be measured by technology alone. As the Valari worked, small children played among the ruins, pretending to be humans saving the city. They ran with sticks and stones, laughing, imagining that they were brave and strong. Mothers and fathers watched them, smiling. They had seen real courage, and now they hoped it would grow in their children. Brooks gathered his team for a final briefing. The city is secure. The Valari can maintain the systems we've repaired. They've learned how to fight and protect themselves. Our work here is done. Laura Mitchell looked around at the city, at the people rebuilding and learning. It's strange, she said softly. We risked everything, but it feels like they gave us as much as we gave them. Grace Carter nodded. They gave us trust and courage. That is more valuable than anything else. Miles Hunter smiled faintly. We came to save a world. In the process, we saw what we fight for. That makes the risk worth it. The humans began to prepare their ships for departure. Supplies were loaded, tools secured, and final instructions given to Valari volunteers. Ethan Brooks addressed Alarin one last time. We leave now, but know this. Your people are strong. You have the courage to protect yourselves. We came from the shadows, yes, but you have learned to stand in the light. Alarin nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. We will remember you. Your courage, your patience, your guidance. You have given our people life, and more than life, you have given them hope. The humans boarded their ships, engines humming and glowing softly. The Valari gathered to watch, many whispering prayers or words of gratitude. Children waved small flags they had painted with symbols of humans and stars. Mothers and fathers called out blessings as the ships lifted into the sky. Brooks and Mitchell waved back. We will return if you ever need help, Brooks said. But we know you can handle things now. You are no longer helpless. As the ships ascended into the upper atmosphere, the Valari watched in awe. The humans had come from the stars, answered their cries, fought alongside them, and taught them courage. The city below was scarred but alive, and its people were stronger than they had ever been. Alarin turned to his council and advisors. We will rebuild, stronger and braver than before. Humans came from the shadows to show us what is possible. We will never forget this day. Valira added, they did not leave us just with tools and systems. They left us with lessons, courage, and hope. That is something no one can take away. In the weeks that followed, the Valari continued to rebuild their city. Energy systems were fully restored, streets repaired, and defenses strengthened. The citizens trained regularly, practicing coordination and learning to act without fear. They remembered the humans' words, courage grows when you act, even when afraid. Far away, the humans traveled back into space, returning to their own world. They carried no treasures, claimed no victories, and sought no reward. Yet in the galaxy, whispers of their deeds began to spread. The so-called Deathworlders had saved a fragile alien race that no one else would touch, and with that act, they had changed the way many civilizations viewed them. On Narelle, the Valari painted murals of the humans standing among their people, guiding them through danger. Statues were built to honor their courage. Children told stories of the brave beings from Earth who had answered a cry for help. Songs were sung in their memory. Alarin Voss looked out over the city one last time before turning to lead his people in rebuilding. We have survived because of courage, unity, and hope. Humans showed us that even the smallest and most fragile among us can stand against danger if we act together. That lesson will live in us forever. High above, in the quiet of space, the human ships disappeared into the stars. They returned to their own world, ready to face new challenges, but their deeds on Nurel would never be forgotten. Whenever a Valari citizen looked at the rebuilt towers or saw children playing in the plazas, they remembered the humans. Whenever they faced fear or danger, they recalled the courage and patience of the beings who came from distant stars to save them. And far across the galaxy, the story of Nurel spread. Many species whispered the tale of humans who answered a cry for help when no one else would. Some feared them, some admired them, but all began to understand that courage, determination, and hope could come from the most unexpected places. Elaran Voss stood in the center of the city, looking at his people working together, strong and united. "We have survived," he said quietly. "Not because of strength alone, but because we learned to act, to stand, and to trust. Humans gave us that gift, and for that, we are forever grateful." The twin suns set slowly over Nurel, bathing the city in golden light. It was a peaceful moment, full of life and hope. The scars of battle remained, but they were no longer a symbol of fear. They were proof of survival, courage, and unity. In the distance, the stars shone bright, as though watching the planet below. Somewhere out there, humans traveled through the galaxy, ready to answer the next call for help. And somewhere on Nurel, a people who had once been fragile now stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges came their way. The galaxy had seen humans for what they were. Not perfect, not bound by rules, but brave, compassionate, and willing to act when it mattered most. The Valari had been saved. Their people had been changed. And the story of the humans who came from the shadows would live on forever.